2, 3.
And we are live with the newest episode of Limited Time Only. I am your host for the next 2 weeks, Mason, and I am joined by our consistent co-host, the man who was at least bronze when the new crazy rollover system happens, but he's currently a silver pro, Danny Cathro of Team Lingering Souls. Danny, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Consistency isn't normally an attribute that people know me for, but I try to be here, so it's great.
I like
it's been working out.
Spencer is taking a little break from podcasting for the next 2 weeks. He's moving. He's got a lot of crazy stuff with work, so I will be filling in for here and on constructive criticism. So if you love my beautiful, sultry voice, prepare to listen to it. If you hate it, I'm sorry. 2 weeks it will fly by like that. You know what will really fly by though, Danny? The Mana Base's shipment of cards sent to you. They are based in Canada, so you have to wait a little bit for customs. But after that, boom! Once they get through customs, they're going to get right to you. You can also check out their content. They have other content creators on there, like Nikachu, the Mason Clark Slayer. You know, Danny, a friend brought up recently, would I accept second place at a GP if it meant losing to Nikachu? And as a fellow brother of the Mana Base, I would do it. I would take that hit for the team.
I think everyone would accept second place at a GP. I think it's just a general good finish. Yeah, I mean, it kind of builds like the storyline, right? Like you can get back at him.
Well, the best. Well, I know I'm guaranteed to lose. That's the thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
But not in the future. Only that time.
The weird part would be like a GP coverage. You'd be like, oh, these, they both create content for the same thing. Wrong. Feud. He's the heel. I'm the good guy. All right. But you can also, if you want to play the pre-release because you're going to know all about all the best uncommons after tonight's episode, you can go to Limited Time Only's other sponsor, the Game Grid in Utah. Danny, will you be at Game Grid this weekend? You're doing
midnight. Friday night, midnight. I'm pretty sure I always go to the midnight one in Lehigh. Game Grid Lehigh.
Yeah.
But you have to pre-order it. They always sell out. So you make sure you call ahead, talk to Jordan.
I like it. Make sure you get in there and maybe you can battle Danny. I used to do the midnight pre-releases. I used to work nights, and so midnight pre-releases, I was wide awake and everyone else was falling asleep. So the games weren't always the most competitive, but nowadays I'm an old man and I have to go to bed at a normal hour. But, Danny, we have a lot of super exciting cards to talk about. So do you want to hop right into this?
Let's do it. Let's go.
I love it. So we're going to set this up here. So what we're going to do is, instead of talking about all the cards that we each pick 3 of, since we overlap so much, I decided that we're just going to each make a list of the cards we like in the uncommons, like our top choices for those, and then we're just going to talk about them all at once instead of doing 3-2-1, 3-2-1 like we've done in the past. We're mixing things up. You know what I know that Spencer loves is when I mix things up on him. So that's what we were doing.
He loves it.
It's his favorite part.
It is. He wants to leave. Things change a bunch. He really did.
I know that Spencer loves that a lot. So let's get into our first card. We're going to go in Wooburg order. So our first card is Dauntless Bodyguard. It is a 1-mana, 2/1 human knight that says, as Dauntless Bodyguard enters the battlefield, choose another target creature you control. I'm sorry, another creature you control, not a target. And then you can sacrifice Dauntless Bodyguard. The chosen creature gains indestructible until end of turn, and it's a 2/1. I don't know if I said. So when I start us off with this, Danny, it's a 1-drop.
Yeah.
I don't think we like 1-drops in a lot of limited.
So I think that this will be very good. So in limited, normally your deck isn't like super streamlined. So you don't a lot of decks aren't always aggro, always control, right? And so if you have this 1-drop in your deck, there will be times where you draw this and you also draw like a 2-drop and a 3-drop and you're on the play. And then you get to have a pretty aggressive curve. But it's also good late, right? Like there's lots of legendaries, lots of really powerful triggers in this set. And so if you draw Dauntless Bodyguard late, you can use it to protect one of your like critical pieces. So I think it's going to be like pretty versatile, and you'll want it in your deck just because it'll always do something in the late game, and it also will give you more opportunities to get free wins with an early curve.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really helped me in limited when I first started off was learning that curve matters, and normally 1-drops don't actually matter to that curve, and they have to be really good to matter. I think Dauntless Bodyguard meets that requirement because it has a significant body. It has 2 different tribe synergies. Well, the second one, the humans matters more for standard and modern stuff, but the knight synergy matters a lot in this set. And I think late game, it's kind of like, would you play a sorcery speed spell that said, give target creature indestructible? Because that's kind of what this says.
Yeah, it's like a welding jar almost, right? You're like, You have like a 2-1 welding jar kind of thing. Like, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I would pay that, and then you're like, all right, I'll attack with my colossal dread maul or whatever, and
Hmm.
then they're like, well, I mean, I'll guess I'll chump or whatever. Where like I'll double block, and you're like, all right, well, I'll kill that one, sack my bodyguard, boom,
Yeah,
move on. So
yeah.
Dauntless Bodyguard, I really like this card. I think I also think it's gonna do something in constructed, so it's an exciting card.
It definitely could do something in constructed.
Yep.
It's sweet. Very, very cool.
You know what card's not gonna do something in constructed, but it's probably going to crush your drafts is my next pick, which Danny threw away in the side like a old ghostly child. We have Sanctum Spirit. It is 3 and a white for a creature spirit, 3/2 lifelink. Discard a historic card. Sanctum Spirit gains indestructible until end of turn.
Yeah, like this one's okay. Like it's So I think from initial review, it looks like the set will be there will be lots of slow decks, and so the lifelink, I'm not sure how relevant it'll be. Like I'm sure it'll be good sometimes, but also you have to discard a historic card, which is definitely like you are limited in what those are, and those generally sound like they'll be some of the good cards in your deck, right? Normally your legendaries, your sagas are going to be very good, and then artifacts maybe you're not. So you can't discard a land to it, right? So
Yeah,
you're giving up like a real spell to cash in for like 3 life and hit them, and maybe it will be good, but who knows?
I definitely thought it had flying. So
Yeah.
this card, I might have misread what it did. When I was looking through it at work today, I swear this card had flying lifelink, and I was like, oh, that card's like completely reasonable. And like you might get clogged with legendaries, blah blah blah. Didn't realize this card didn't have flying. I'm not as big a fan of it now.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
I've seen people say that they like it, but I don't know. There might be some lifelink synergies. Like I know there's some rares that base off lifelink, and then maybe this card will get better, but I don't think it's that great.
yeah, I agree. Now that I actually like read the card correctly, and don't think I don't know. I guess I thought Spirit flying or something. I'm not sure, but
I mean, spirits normally do have flying, so you're not too far off.
yeah. The one thing I will say is that when I think we're gonna talk about this more when we get to our first legendary creature, but there are a lot of legendary creatures in this set, and so maybe more so in sealed than draft. But you might get stuck with an extra legendary in your hand, and using it as a combat trick can be nice. So
Like 2 of the same legendary.
yeah,
I mean
they're at uncommon
that could
a
happen.
lot of them.
Yeah, there's quite a few uncommon legendaries, which you could definitely open up multiples.
Yep.
But normally, like if your legendary is sticking around, that's normally a good thing, right? Like unless there's like pacifism effects or something, but you can.
Yeah. Well, if you have that, then you just like sack the one that's getting pacifism.
Yeah.
I just think, and I could be wrong here. I just think the legendary thing's gonna matter more because the cards are at uncommon, right? So we're gonna see them more. And I think they're less powerful on average because, like, even though legendary creatures are still stronger than normal creatures, because that's just normally how their MO goes. You're gonna get them stuck in your hand, and there are gonna be times where trading them in for a card would be fine. Now, mind you, when I put this on the list, I thought this creature had flying, and I was like, oh, you're controlling the skies at that point. Definitely less impactful on the ground, but maybe not the worst thing. Also, I don't think there are many synergies with like reanimating in their set. Otherwise, this would be something to keep an eye out on. But
yeah, not too many.
oh,
I get
Warrior's Vengeance in Modern. My Yargle deck could play this.
Yeah, it doesn't sound great.
We'll get to the Yargfather. All right, moving on to the next card in the set. Danny, you picked this one.
So this one is Seal Away. So it's 1 and a white for an enchantment that has flash. And when it enters the battlefield, exile target tapped creature and opponent controls until Seal Away leaves the battle. This card seems sweet to me. So it's instant speed, somewhat conditional removal, right? So 2 mana, but you can use it on their turn, and you exile a tapped creature. So as long as you are being attacked, it's like Journey to Nowhere, right? Which is really, really good if you are being attacked. And I think that's like not too hard of a condition to meet. I mean, you don't have to play this at instant speed. Like you can just play it on your turn if they've already attacked you. And then you only have to hold it up if your life total is like really at risk. And even holding up 2 mana is like not that big of a deal. So I don't know. It seemed like it's just going to be very good to me, like a really efficient removal to hit everything.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if this wasn't one of the like better cards in the set that isn't a rare. Like if not it's probably like top 3 pretty easily, I think.
I think it's the best
You think
like the
it's
best white uncommon when I looked
okay.
at it, and there's like some competition, but it's really good.
Yeah, I don't think it's the best uncommon. We're getting close to the best uncommon in my opinion, but
Yeah,
yeah, it is definitely the best white uncommon, at least for my money. I like
yeah,
this card a lot. I agree with you, and I think holding up the mana won't be that big a deal. Like even if they're gonna know that you have it, it's limited. It's gonna be kind of hard for them not to attack to kill you.
yep.
So
And you don't even have to hold up the mana. It's just like if you have that luxury, you can, and if you don't, then not a big deal.
yeah, and also you might do a thing where like there's like a 1 in a white combat trick that's like +2/+2 indestructible to your creature. So they might think you have seal away, make an attack, and you're just like boop, or like they're like, oh, he has that, and then you get to seal away it. So nice play with synergy in the set. Love it. All right, moving on to the next card. I don't think I've ever heard of this card, Danny. It's Saray Angel. Oh, Sarah Angel. Sarah Angel, 3 white for a creature angel, flying vigilance 4/4. End.
Yeah, I think it's just like it's like bread and butter win condition, right? So 4/4 flyers, really big. It attacks through most everything. Vigilance.
Seal away.
It does, including seal away. And like so many games in limited just go down to flying. And especially in a set like this, I think flying is good. Anytime like you think the games are going to go longer and the set looks a little slower, flying becomes way more important because it's a way to kind of break parity and get in damage and have a reasonable win condition.
I agree. I haven't ever actually played a limited format with Sarah Angel in the limited format.
I haven't either, actually.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so I just assume it's good. Like it looks really good. I mean, you are often okay paying 6 mana for a 4/4 flyer with like some conditional upside, right? That's normally a good card, and this is like better than that for sure.
Yeah,
way better than that.
I'm curious how good. Like I think it's good. Like I think the baseline is just like, yep, I got a Sarah Angel. I'm gonna play it in my white deck. But I'm curious if it's much better than that, or if it's like a back in the day creatures were terrible, and this one's just like baseline good when creatures are good. So
yeah. I assume it probably is pretty dependent on what the set looks like, right? So if there's 4 or 5 flyers, Sarah Angel will probably not be very good. But as long as the stats, that's normally how flying lines up, right? So the chicken from the last set, Pterodon, Sun-Crested Pterodon, the reason why that card was so good is because all of the flyers in the set matched up horribly against Sun-Crested Pterodon, right? So it was just the best flyer that you could get, and it was common, so it could block and attack, so it could break board stalls without, like, it had vigilance, right? So Sarah Angel kind of reminds me of that card, as long as 4/4 is the, like, good stats, which it looked like it was when I looked over it.
I need to double check to be 100% sure, but I agree. I don't think I remember seeing much more that wasn't at rare that's bigger than this, so. And whatever. You got me with your rares, you pay to win. On to our next card, Triumph of Gerard. This is 1 in a white for a Saga, Danny. This is a new card type, so I guess we'll go over that in a second. I guess we have to go over it now for how it works. So, if you don't know what a Saga is, it's an enchantment that when it enters the battlefield, you do the first chapter. They're kind of like old scrolls if you think about it, like from a flavor standpoint. And you do the first one, which is put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control with the greatest power. So your biggest guy gets bigger. Then on the beginning of your upkeep, you go to the next chapter, which is the exact same thing for this card. And then on the next upkeep, you do the third chapter, and then after that, you sacrifice it. So the third chapter says, target creature you control with the greatest power gains flying, first strike, and lifelink until end of turn.
Yeah. So I think it's technically draw step, but it'll play the same.
Oh, sorry. Yes, it's draw step, not upkeep for a Saga.
Yeah.
I think they're getting rid of the upkeep step, by the way, which is.
I think they will eventually. The upkeep's kind of dumb, but.
But I want to tap your lands down.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's kind of it's a weird thing, but I think this card won't be good.
Why don't you think it'll be good?
So it looks like removal is pretty readily available, right? And this makes you go all in on your biggest threat. And so sometimes that'll be good, right? Like if you have a double like there's the double striker guy in white, or there's like equipment that might give like trample, or I really don't know too much on like what equipment exactly is in the set, but I know it's a sub theme, and so like sometimes going all in on your biggest thing will be good, but sometimes you'll go all in on your biggest thing and it'll just get sealed away or cast down, and then you'll be out of luck. And so when I look at the set, there's lots of removal. In general, an aura type effect is not what I want, but which this seems like it'll play out like an aura.
I think it plays out a lot. Well, it's kind of like an aura, but the upside I think in this card compared to the other card is it's really hard for you not to get the value. Right?
Okay.
Like something will get a +1/+1 counter. The next thing will get a +1/+1 counter, and then something will get bigger unless they're killing all your creatures.
Well, it'll almost certainly be the same thing. So the way that it plays out is you cast this, and it puts a counter on something.
Yep.
And then you untap, and before you have an opportunity to play a different creature, the same thing is going to get another counter.
Yeah, so you might be able to get something different on the third one, but most of the time the same thing will get big twice. I agree.
Correct.
That's fine. What I'm saying is, if they're killing stuff, I think you always get like the first and the third chapter, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So like you get a profitable attack with the +1/+1 counter initially, exactly. And then unless they have an instant speed one, something will get flying and first strike and lifelink, which will be good. And I mean it could be okay. It's the sagas are going to be weird. I think you're going to have to play with them. Kind of delayed effects are definitely a strange thing to try to evaluate without playing with it.
Yeah, I don't know how much you've been thinking about it. I think about it a lot like a planeswalker that has only like one mode I want to use, right?
Okay.
And it works towards an ultimate. So like an example that might be like, I actually can't think of one. Most of the time you just take up, right? And you work towards the ult, but sometimes you minus. But like, you always
then like Brick, where it's like plus make a beast, and then you overrun.
Yes, that's.
Is that it's like a very basic planeswalker, right? So you play it for 4 mana. You can plus to make a 3/3, and then the next turn you're allowed to overrun. And so it's kind of like a delayed overrun that has some kind of value. I can definitely see that Epics would play like a planeswalker that's intended to be cashed in very quickly.
Yeah, I also think historic there are some cards that matter, so this card might matter more there. And then I don't know Historic does come up more in white than it does in the other colors also. Like there's the common, the Divinant Trapper. Mm-hmm. That card is great. And so that probably works really well with this. So it's the 3 mana 3/2 that if you cast a historic spell, you tap target creature an opponent controls. And that's like an aggro deck, you're putting a counter on something, tapping down a blocker, getting in for a bunch of damage. So like I can definitely see this being great, but you definitely want to be capitalizing on getting in early damage and using the counters to get profitable attacks. Yeah, I think with all the sagas you have to be very aware of the tempo loss you're taking most of the time, and this card really leverages the tempo loss. But that's it for white. That's all the cards we're going to talk about for white. I'm excited for white. I think Seal Away is the clear best.
For sure.
But I'm really excited to see Sarah Angel because a lot of the times and I don't know how much of experience you have with this because you've been playing Magic a little bit longer than I have, but people talk about older cards and they get really like Siege Gang Commander is insane. And it's I don't know if Siege Gang Commander is playable. So it's like, you know what I mean?
Like they don't live up to the hype, right? Like your opponent plays a Siege King Commander and I play a Scarab God, and it's like, wow, your Siege King Commander looks bad, right? Like really bad. Yeah, Glorybringer. Yeah,
I think Glorybringer and Siege King Commander are like pretty close in power level. Siege King might be like slightly better, but it's like they act like Siege King Commander is like the Scarab God 2.0. I don't know.
Yeah,
but I'm just excited to see how these cards play out in Limited.
It is fun.
Yeah. Let's move on to blue. Now, this is the only blue card that I added that you didn't put in, and we'll get to why in a little bit. But this is Diligent Excavator for 1 blue creature, Human Artificer. It says, whenever you cast a historic spell, target player puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard, and it's a 1/3.
Are you planning targeting you or them?
So I think you can do both. I haven't gone deep enough, but I think there might be enough like synergies where you can get stuff back, where you can get things. But I think the format's going to be slow, and a lot of people have been saying it's going to be slow. Now, I haven't listened to the LR set review yet, so I don't know their opinions on things. But I think this could a card that has the potential to be really good because the format is really slow. This body is fairly decent at holding up the ground against the aggressive decks, and then it's actually like a way to win in the later games. Even though mill effects are normally not good and limited, like ever, it was interesting enough to me that there are enough ways to get stuff back with your historics, and they're just incidental so many historics that you might be able to actually win with this card. And it might just be more of like a sealed sideboard thing, where it's like, oh, we're playing a really slow matchup, but it was a card I wanted to talk about. So
yeah, I mean, so I like read an article about how many historic spells you could expect to have in your deck.
Okay.
And I think they said the way that it checks out, you could expect to have 3 point something legendary creatures per player, and then maybe there's a little bit of artifacts depending on how playable the artifacts are. A little bit of sagas, right? So
like 4.
What?
So like 4.
Yeah, so like maybe 4 or 5 is like an average number that you would get in your deck. So maybe if you're prioritizing it pretty heavily, you could get 7 or 8 maybe. I think that's kind of the high end, right?
Yeah, that's not enough. I hadn't seen that article.
Yeah. And so I mean, it's kind of like just a Matthew article, right? Because most of the legendaries are all uncommons and rares, and so you can just kind of math how many of those will be open per pack in a draft, right? And so based on that, I don't think it'll work out. But I mean, maybe it will. If like 1 3 for 2 is good, then this could do something for sure. But
yeah, it feels like you need the second one of this before it act. If that math is right, and like that's how it actually plays out, then yeah, you probably need 2 of these before you're actually doing anything, and that might just be too slow for this format.
The last time I remember Mill being good, it was like Manic Scribe. Do you remember that? So it was Eldritch Moon, and
that was the card this reminded me of.
Yeah, that card was actively good, right? But all you had to do was get Delirium, and then every single turn it would mill for 3.
Yeah.
And you could mill yourself. Like sometimes milling yourself was great. Sometimes you can mill them out, and it was a common instead of an uncommon. So I don't think this one will live up to like how good Manic Scribe was.
I tried. Rest in peace.
Yeah, it's sweet though. It's sweet.
All right, this card's not even playable, Danny, but I guess we can talk about it. Would you like to read it?
All right, let's do it. So this is in Bolus's Clutches. So it's 4 blue for a legendary enchantment aura, and then you enchant permanent, and you control enchanted permanent. And enchanted permanent is legendary. Yeah, this card is just going to be bonkers. So it has like all of the synergy, legendary synergy, right? You can like trigger your historic things. So it has all of that going for it. Mind Control is already a great effect, and one that you're willing to pay 6 mana for. Especially if you think the format's going to be slow, lots of expensive rares, or expensive bombs, right? Then Mind Control gets even better because you're not at such a mana disadvantage by using 6 mana to switch, or like just steal their creature. And then, it just seems, it technically turns on, like, if you open any, like, the sweet rares, like the legendary sorceries or anything, like, it turns that on because it makes the thing legendary. Like, it's just going to be insane. And it's uncommon, so you'll see it quite often. This card's
like, even the tap we talked about, right? Like, you steal, like, probably their best or second best creature, tap the other one, and then you just, like, swing.
Yep. You steal their flyer, tap a different crappy flyer, attack with all your flyers. Like, it'll be sweet.
Like, to steal their Sarah Angel, it's like, oh, the tempo loss, like, from these kind of cards are insane. They just swing everything.
Mind Control is always great as long as creatures matter whatsoever, and they almost always do.
There's not much more to say on this card. This card is insane. You're probably able to, like, if the format is slow, right, and we assume it's slow when we're talking about the cards, there are going to be lots of rares that you're going to be like, oh, that's cool, I have an Imbolus's Clutches. And like, the card's insane. I love the idea for the art.
I see myself picking it first very often.
Oh, yeah, easily. But I just want to talk about the art, just for 2 seconds. Go with this. I love the idea and everything. Bolas looks like the gremlin.
He does. I definitely did not think that was like the face of Bolas, but maybe it is. But
no, that's definitely like a bad artist rendition, like a
like a different take on it or something.
Yeah. Maybe maybe there's some lore reason why his face is looking like that. Maybe it's like a mirage or like a past image of Bolas, but
okay.
Yeah, I don't know. So interesting thing, by the way. I had to look this up today, so maybe you're thinking the same thing I am. So if you, like, let's say you had a Sarah Angel, right, and you in Bolas's Clutches. Sorry, let's say you have 2 Sarah Angels, and you in Bolas's Clutches their Sarah Angel. The legendary rule doesn't, like, kill your other 2. Does that make sense?
Oh, it doesn't? Because the other 2 aren't legendary?
Yeah, so I didn't get a judge rule on it, but 2 different people told me, whose opinion I respect, that because it's like Jace's ultimate, the Cunning Castaway.
Yes.
So the other two aren't legendary, so they aren't affected by the legendary rule. I could be mistaken, because it could be that the Planeswalker rule is different than legendary, but I think they all got changed to be very similar now. So
interesting.
Yeah, I might be wrong there. You'll find out your FNM when you take their Starry Angel and lose everything. I know that the old legend rules you got. But let's move on.
Sweet.
Go right ahead. This is a card I'm interested in, but don't know a lot about. Like, why I'm going to play it.
So this one's weird. So this one is Tetsuko Umezawa Fugitive, and it's 1 in a blue for a 1/3 human rogue legendary creature. And it says creatures you control with power or toughness, 1 or less, can't be blocked.
Oh, it combos with my Stoneforge Mystic to get his Jit.
So this one is like, it's really interesting, right? Like, power or toughness is definitely a really unique clause. So you want to be making your 1 toughness creatures unblockable that have more power than 1. That's the trick with it, right? And so there's definitely like, there are some interesting cards in the set that have 1 toughness. Like even just 2/1s are pretty good. If you like make your 2/1 unblockable, that's like pretty good.
Yeah,
and
immediately. Yeah,
and like this herself, she is a 2 mana 1/3 unblockable. But you can't suit anything up. That is the issue, right? So if I like put an aura on her that makes her have more than 1 power, she is no longer unblockable. So that doesn't work as well as you would like. But she is legendary, so that like works with legendary things.
You need one of those things where like you deal damage equal to the butt, not the attack.
Yeah, player in a Doran deck.
Yeah,
Tetsuko and Doran. Ooh, this is interesting. It's like build a. That sounds great.
Yeah, so I think the card's probably fine, and if you need historic synergies, it's probably good enough. Like, a 2 mana 1/3 isn't great, but it's unblockable. We've played Merfolk Mistbinder. Is that the name of the card? The 1/1 unblockable.
Yeah.
Oh, Mistcloak Herald, I think is the name. But regardless, we've played that card, and this card's pretty similar and triggers the historic cards, so it might be good. But if I'm trying to like draft around this card, which maybe this is just more for constructed, I'm just overthinking it, but it's hard for me to draft to A, get multiples, and then B, like the legend rule really comes up.
Yeah. I think me having this on my list is, I didn't think a lot of the blue uncommons were very good. They were definitely kind of weird to me.
That last one.
Yeah, I mean, that one's excellent, obviously. But so I think this one might do like the most. I think it works well with different colors. Depending on what color you pair it with, you might be able to make some really sweet things unblockable. But to be determined, I guess.
Yep. All right. Well, let's talk about our next saga, A Time of Ice, or Time of Ice. Sorry. Would you like to read it?
Yeah. So this one's. I like this one. So it's 3 in a blue for a saga, and the first 2 say tap target creature an opponent controls. It doesn't untap during its controller's untap step for as long as you control Time of Ice. And then on the third chapter,
1 and 2.
Yeah, so you play it, tap something down, it doesn't untap. Then on your upkeep, it taps something else, and they both don't untap. So the first thing that you tap down won't untap for 2 turns, right?
Yep, correct.
Okay, good. And then once you get to your next turn, it'll return all tapped creatures to their owner's hand. And this is at the beginning of your turn, so in theory, your creatures won't bounce because they'll untap.
Yes.
I thought that this might be enough tempo, right? So you're if you're aggressive at all or have flyers, this just locks down flyers for so long. If that's how you're trying to win, I think it does enough.
Yeah, I like this card.
Yeah.
I think you do have to be an aggressive deck. So you basically tap down their 2 best creatures and then unsummon their 2 best creatures for 4 mana. But you stall them for 3 turns. And then the really tricky part is that on their third turn, or the second turn after you play it, they can't attack with anything they don't want going back to their hand.
Exactly.
They'll unsummon it. So you kind of make it so you can't attack. So you make it so you probably can't, definitely can't.
Yeah. And even let's say that you play this on a relatively they say they have a 4-drop, and then you play this, you tap their 4-drop. Do they want to play a 5-drop? It's literally not going to do anything, right? Their 5-drop is just going to get tapped and then get bounced. So then their next turn they either don't play a creature, or and most decks are going to be mostly creatures, right? So it's hard for them. It could definitely make their draws really awkward, where they just have to just not do anything for a turn. Because
anyone not playing another fast, if anyone's playing like a traditional limited deck that's like mid-range, they're gonna get got by this card because you do just want to curve.
Yeah, and if you just have a curve of creatures and then you play this, it's going to completely ruin whatever defensive options they have.
I agree. I really like this card. I think Bolas's Clutches is obviously insane, but I think this is the second best blue uncommon.
Yeah, me too. I think all the other ones are like pretty significantly worse than these two.
I agree. So that's blue. Those are the cards we're excited to talk about in blue. Yeah, I think one of the cards is probably one of the best cards in the set for limited. And I think the other one is in Bolas's Clutches. And then, no, I'm joking. But, Time of Ice is good. I don't think it'll be... I'm interested to know if it'll be playable in, like, a Historic Matters slower deck. Because you do just, like, unsummon 2 things over the course of 3 turns and stop them from attacking you. But you would probably need a way to buy back Time of Ice a bunch to do that. And make
maybe. Or, like, if I just play Time of Ice and then the next turn I play Weight of Memory, I've, like... got back. I think I'm up a card, and like I've diffused the tempo that I lost. And then if my deck just has more powerful cards than my opponent's deck, then Time of Ice is just like bridging the gap to me playing things that are better than what my opponent plays.
That's very true. It also works well with that tapper we talked about with the historic cards.
Yeah, like the white one. Yeah. Just building a blue-white tap deck.
Yeah, we had talked a lot weirdly about like a blue-white tempo deck, like. You do play this thing and tap down 2 of their creatures, get in there, and then the turn before it goes off, like if you have like a flash in historic, they're just
sure. They get wrecked. For
Game's
sure.
over. All right, let's move on to black and the most overrated card in the limited set review by Danny Cathro. Maybe again.
So the card I'm assuming is Cast Down.
Correct.
It's 1 in a black for an instant, and it says destroy target non-legendary creature. Why do you think it's so overrated?
So I think it's really good.
Okay.
I mean, like, don't get me wrong, but I think that the legendary thing matters a lot because I think a lot of the creatures you're going to want to kill are legendary, and I think this thing will just it's kind of going to be like Mutiny, where it always kills their second best creature. That's my gut response to this. Because, So here's something, and this isn't me trying to overthink it. One thing that I know R&D likes to do is they like to introduce effects that are normally really good or really bad and put them in a set where they will become the opposite. So an example is Naturalize in an artifact block becomes the best Doomblade of all time.
Yeah, whereas like Go for the Throat becomes bad.
Exactly. Go for the Throat is like, if you look at Go for the Throat, you're like, whoa, that card's insane.
Broken.
You play, you're like, Naturalize is basically Wrath of God.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you just can't beat it. And I feel like Cast Down's going to play out somewhat similar. I don't think there are enough legendary creatures where it's unplayable. I just think it's going to be like a good card in your deck. And you'll probably almost always play all your Cast Downs. I just think that it's going to play a lot more like Mutiny than it will be like Doomblade.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's cheap, and instant speed is like a lot going for it, right? So I assume that it'll be very good, and you'll be very happy to play it all the time, just because, yes, it's not unconditional removal, but something like, what's a good example? Like, what was the black card from last set? It was the gave my Moment of Craving.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that in my mind, where it's just so efficient, and that you can double spell earlier, and if you ever kill a 4 or 5 drop with this on a turn that you get to double spell, like, it's so much tempo that you are definitely going to be able to run away with a lot of games. And yeah, like, it definitely has some downsides. It's not going to kill like all the most powerful things in the set, but I don't think it has to. I think it just you're in for the efficiency, not for the fact that it won't kill absolutely everything.
And I'm fine with that. I've heard people talk about this card like it's the second coming of Scarab God or something in Limited.
In Constructed, it might be similar. Like, it's definitely, at times, it'll be insane in Constructed.
I don't know enough. I don't know how.
Sure.
I don't think Standard's going to change a lot. And if that's the case, yes. If I'm wrong about my hot take about Domanaria, Danny, is that it's going to be insane in the fall, and right now it has almost like no cards I'm excited to play with. But that's my hot takes. I got them all over the place today. I'm like a kitchen throwing them out.
Yeah.
Spencer's gone for 2 weeks. I'm like, let's go, hot takes.
Hot takes left and right.
No, but I do think this card's really good. And I don't want that to come off like, oh, I'm saying you don't take this card. I think you definitely take this card. You're definitely happy to open this card. You're definitely happy to play with this card. But
it's like Impale. It's like it's not like completely bonkers like Doomblade would be. It's like good.
Exactly. It's just good, and you're really happy to have it, and you're probably first pick it a lot of the times, just like the other cards we talked about. I just wanted to be get my opinion out there that hey, this isn't the Scarecrow 2.0 or whatever. That's not a good example, but that's removal.
Like Fatal Push or something.
Yeah, Fatal Push. That's a good example.
Yeah.
All right, next up we have Lingering Phantom. This was one of the cards I added to the thing that Danny did not like. It is 5 and a black for a creature spirit. It says whenever you cast a historic spell, you may pay black. If you do, return Lingering Phantom from your graveyard to your hand. It is a 5/4.
What's your? Are you casting this or are you discarding it?
So I haven't looked over everything enough to get like a good idea of how it's going to actually play out. But it seemed like a really good enabler. And if you notice, I keep bringing up the historic stuff because I think those strategies are going to maybe matter a bit more. And I think this will be a thing where you can abuse it with like discarding it and then getting it back, and you can like mill over it like we talked about with the Scribe maybe. But I think you'll be able to just like attack in with this and trade with something. Its body isn't terrible. I mean, obviously it's big, but we think the format's slow. You attack into something, then you play like your Time of Ice or whatever historic spell. Get it back. So
interesting. Like, so my main thought is that it's so expensive. 6 mana is a lot, right?
I agree.
So in a set that has lots of legendaries that cost a lot, I assume that this might not, like, the 6 mana 5/4 that can never die, even if it can just never die, might just not be good enough, right? Just because other people are going to be playing 6 and 7 mana cards too, that will just maybe blank a 5/4 or have flying or have some kind of condition that will snowball the game, right? And so I don't know how, if this is the inevitability that you'll want.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, it might not be bad. I guess you really do have to abuse the buyback part for it to be really good.
Yeah. So if you could mill it over, I mean, there's certain cards that might be sweet. Like Final Parting is a sweet combo.
What does that do?
So it's the 5 mana sorcery that's you get 2 cards from your library, one goes into your hand and the other into your graveyard. You can go get a legendary creature or a saga and then put this in your graveyard, and then when you cast it, you bring it right back. And it's great.
Oh,
I mean, man. You're combining 2 what I perceive to be bad cards to make 1 bad card.
And that's what they always say you're supposed to do in Limited. Make 2 cards, just make a slightly better card. No, you're right.
Staple them together into synergy.
Yep.
We're doing it. But that card is weird, and it's definitely the type of card that you could misevaluate pretty easily if you don't see exactly what goes well with it.
Yeah, I can't play 4D chess on my head with Limited like you. I don't play enough. So Constructed, I feel like I have a pretty good job at seeing how things are going to play out. And Limited is a lot harder, and I just don't play it enough. It's probably on me. But that being said, I'm going to do so many rub-ins of this card's insane. And if it's not,
it definitely could be. You're right. One of my black cards is definitely a weird one that might suck, but might be great. But we'll get to it in a bit.
I go for home run. Danny just wants to get the second base. Next up, we have Settle the Score. This card's insane. Just a good cast down, whatever. 2 black sorcery, exile target creature. Then you can put 2 loyalty counters on a planeswalker you control, which is really weird text.
This will mostly just be Impale and Limited, but Impale is good, so this card's good.
Yeah,
right.
I agree. Yeah, it's just a lot like Cast Down.
Yeah, Cast Down is Is that the
name of it? The Black Doomblade for legendaries. Hang on.
Sure. Well, I mean, this one technically gets everything, right? So, if it's 4 mana, kill everything. Exile is good, so right, that comes up sometimes. And if you have a planeswalker, you're really doing it. But that's not going to happen. It's basically Impale. It's an uncommon Impale.
I was actually thinking, it's Impale. With Exile being probably slightly better.
Yeah, a little bit better.
So here's my question. the 2 loyalty counter thing.
Yeah.
Is this a thing you think we're going to see more of? Is this feels like early, like, all right, we're going to put this here, sprinkle a little bit, and when we get to our Planeswalker set, where this is going to matter a lot more.
Yeah, like, they're not doing another Dominaria set, right? They've switched to just one set of things.
So the way it works is we're going to have individual blocks, and Morrow has said if we need to for a story, we can stay there for a year. But most likely we're going to be hopping around for the next little bit. So next up is, like, the...
Core.
Yeah, like, it looks to be like a Bolas set, or like, oh, it's a core set, but the Bolas is in the art pack, yeah. And then, like, after that, we don't know, but people think it's like Ravnica, and then we think we're going to Theros in the story, so.
Cool. Yeah, like, this card might be swing constructed. Like, if you have a 3-mana Planeswalker.
My Cunning Castaways are going to skyrocket in price.
That'd be sweet. That's actually really cool.
I tick up, and then I do this ultimate, and then I make 2 bears, and you can never win.
I love it. Yeah, obviously not. It doesn't do anything, but it's cool.
My heart bleeds. All right, moving on. We have
so this
card's insane.
Yeah, this is the one that I was cool about. Like, or I thought was pretty sweet. So it's Thallid Soothsayer, and it's 3 and a black for a 2/3 fungus. And then it has an activated ability. You can pay 2 and sacrifice a creature, and if you do, you draw a card.
Boom.
I think it's gonna be good. Like,
I do too.
So there's a fungus sapling theme, and it's mostly green-black. And obviously in that, like, this card will be very good in that deck. But even, like, if your opponent's playing pacifism effects or targeted removal spells and you get to the late game, this card can kind of run away with the game, right? You turn all the removal into 2-for-1s because you get to replace the creature that they're trying to kill with a new card. You can exchange crappy creatures for a chance at one of your better cards, right?
Yeah.
It's a little understated, obviously, but I think it's gonna be sweet.
Yeah, I think excuse me, I think you will, like, in the black-green, like, sapling fungus deck, you're gonna, like, draw a lot of cards, you're gonna make a lot of tokens that don't really matter, and you're gonna find your bombs or whatever. But I think when you're talking about how it's gonna turn all your removal spells into 2-for-1s, I think it's gonna turn the first removal spell into 2-for-1. Because I think a lot of the time
they just have to kill this.
Yeah, they just have to kill this. Like, if the game's about value, then they can't let this stay. If the game's about tempo, they'll be okay with it. So.
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, they just have to kill this one. And then if they don't, then ideally you, like, are cashing in jump blockers for new cards.
Exactly. Yep.
I think this card will be pretty sweet.
All right, that does it for black, actually. So black, we have 2 risky ones and then 2 really solid ones.
For sure. Just, like, 2 bread and butter, they'll be good removal spells, and then, like, some situational creatures. Which I think those are fun uncommons to have. I like the weird uncommons that are sometimes broken and sometimes unplayable.
I like
that's the way to do it. Yeah.
If you can tell from my picks.
For sure.
Don't fight me on this one, Danny. This is Fight with Fire in red. It's 2 and a red for a sorcery, and has Kicker, which is somehow the first time we're talking about Kicker in the set review, but regardless, it has 5 and a red for Kicker. But with Fight with Fire, it deals 5 damage to a creature. If the spell was kicked, it deals 10 damage divided as you choose among any number of targets instead.
Yeah, this is 9 mana, win the game. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Insane.
Like, if they're at 10 or less, they're dead. And then if they have a board, they no longer have a board. And that's like the upside, right? The upside is 9 mana, win the game. The downside, or the worst part, is 3 mana, kill almost anything. Interesting. That sounds great.
Yeah.
This card is going to be first picked almost every time, I assume. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, red has to be so bad, and it doesn't look to be. It'd have to be so bad that the color's unplayable, and even then you'd be like, well, if I get enough Fight with Fires, maybe
you can splash it. Yeah, like,
exactly.
Like it's just single red, and then to kicker it, it's double red, but you have 9 mana, so.
Yeah, exactly. At that point, you have it. Yeah, sometimes it's like Hidatsu's second right. Other times, it's just
exactly.
Exactly. Which, if you don't know what that card does, look it up. But the other times, it just clears the board and wins the game. It's insane.
Yeah. Card's going to be unbelievable.
Yeah. Really, just wow. Next up, we have Fire Fist Adept. For 4 and a red, we have a creature, human, wizard, 3/3. When Fire Fist Adept enters the battlefield, it deals X damage to target creature and opponent controls, where X is the number of wizards you control.
So you picked this one, right?
Yes, I did.
What do you? So what? So I just think of Stormfleet. What's that one? The red one that had a raid and it deals 2 damage from Ixalan. Stormfleet.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the name
Yeah.
of it. Yeah. So I think
So,
it will play
yeah, go
like
ahead.
that a reasonable amount of the time, but I think a big difference is having to attack versus not attack. And there
Sure.
are a lot of wizards in blue and red. So I
Okay.
imagine if like you're in a blue-red wizards deck, this card is quite good.
Yeah.
So I think
Okay.
it'll play out like Flame Tongue Kavu a good amount of the time.
Yeah. So 5 mana, 3/3. Hopefully, like if that body is reasonable, I can definitely see this being good, right?
Yeah.
But if you, I guess having like it is kind of nice, right? If this is on the top of your curve, then if you curve out like 2, 3, 4, and then this kills their 3 or 4 drop, that's that could be very good.
Boom. You push in damage, Time of Ice, the thing they play that it's going to stabilize, win the game.
Yeah, I could see it. I think when I was initially looking over it, maybe I don't know how many wizards are going to be in that color combination, and I often thought of it.
Supposed to be the wizards.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, who knows? Like maybe it'll be sweet. If it's Flame Tongue Kavu, that is very good, obviously, right?
Yeah.
We'll see how often it comes together. But.
Yeah, I think just from the stuff we've looked at and what I noticed from the set, I do think 3 toughness. I think if you can deal 3 with this, you're going to be consistently pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
Anytime you get to unsummon it or blink it, anything like that, you're going to be very happy. So.
Yeah.
I don't. Not
yeah, definitely has some real upside.
Yeah, it's not insane, but I think it's going to be a solid card in your tempo deck.
Definitely.
I can't say his name, and you picked him.
All right, so the one that the weird uncommon that I was kind of into was Valduk, Keeper of the Flame. So it's 2 red for a legendary human shaman, and it's a 3/2. Then it says at the beginning of combat on your turn, for each aura and equipment attached to Valduk, Keeper of the Flame, create a 3/1 red elemental creature token with trample and haste. Exiles those tokens at the beginning of the next step. So red-white has like a aura equipment sub-theme, and I really liked this card because I think it's like the highest upside that I saw for that sub-theme. So it's legendary, which that helps with white a lot. Legendary triggers off of the white cards. Triggers a lot of the white cards, and I think if you can have an aggressive curve, you play this and then pass the turn. If they tap out, then you know it's safe to load him up, get a bunch of damage in, and kind of run away with the game if they don't kill him, right? And then if they hold up mana, then you just don't have to do that. You don't have to play your auras on him. You can play something else and keep going. And so like it's like almost a threat of activation, I think, where they don't know how many auras you're going to be able to put on him and how much damage they'll be facing. And they'll almost just have to kill him on the spot, which is really powerful as a 3-drop.
I agree with that. I think it is one of those higher payoff cards. Are you ready for my hyperbolic statement?
I'm ready.
Better Goblin Rabble Master.
Yeah, like so that's pretty hyperbolic.
Like if this card goes off, it's better Goblin Rattle Master.
For sure. I mean,
you don't get the tokens, but the ones almost didn't matter limited. So.
Oh, yeah, I mean, like they're just dead, right? Like if you play this and then they play some random 2/2 or 3/3, and you put an aura 2 on him, they're just taking like 10 damage, right? Like they're so dead.
I agree.
So it could be sweet.
Yeah, I agree with everything. I don't have much more to say. I will say, my fear with this is the same fear I had with the blue legendary creature we talked about earlier. And maybe, once again, this could just be me overthinking it. It might be more of a draft thing than a sealed thing. But having multiple legendary creatures is what I would want. Like, I would want to take every Valduk, the Keeper of Flame.
Okay.
It's hard to take every Valduk, Keeper of Flame. You know what I mean?
I don't think you're going to run into that too often.
Okay.
Normally, you won't get more than 2 of an uncommon. And if you have 2 of them, then you're pretty unlikely to draw both of them. And so...
That's fair.
I don't think it'll be a big... In sealed or draft, I don't think it'll be a big problem.
Okay, maybe I'm just freaking for no reason.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, maybe you're right. I'm sure it'll come up and it'll feel bad, but I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Gotta come up with a pro tour.
Obviously. Like game 1 of the PT, definitely going to come up.
Yeah, you're in the feature pod.
I'm going to have 3 Valduks, draw all 3 in my opening hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you're going to be like, well, I signed up for this.
But even then, they don't know that, right? Like, like they don't know that I have extra Valdux, especially in drafts. So like they're going to be very incentivized to kill this card.
That's true, and they're going to wait till when you're trying to equip an aura, and you're going to get 2 for 1.
Correct, because I'll have nothing else to play but another Valduk.
Exactly, and then you have no aura. You can't have it all, Danny. But you know
That's
what
true.
will let you have it all? Besides our sponsors, Wizard's Lightning. Wizard's Lightning is 2 in a red. For an instant, this spell costs 2 less if you control a wizard. Hello. And then when you when Wizard's Lightning deals 3 damage to any target. I was like, target creature. I'm like, no.
When it's cast, it deals 3 damage. Is this a cast trigger? Oh my goodness.
I really
That'd be so
just had a
sweet.
moment where I was like, I'm still learning Magic, so how does this work? Is it an ETB? Like, someone out there, like,
spell's broken.
did ask that though. They were like, so is this like an enter the battlefield thing? I'm like, well, like kinda, but not really. Yeah, no,
great.
but Wizard's Lightning.
This card's gonna be sweet.
It's
so efficient. Yeah, it's like lightning bolt in your tempo. You're trying to be tempo wizardy deck. It's gonna be just great.
Yep. We talked about having your deck gets Flame Tongue Combo. You're gonna get this, and you would pay 2 in a red in a lot of limited formats to do this.
It's always good. 2 in a red, deal 3 damage is almost always solid. Especially if you can go face. Like your opponent will be at 3 or less with some frequency. So.
Yep. Now that you'll see a lot of these cards because there's so much good removal. It's insane. It's insane. I don't know.
Good removal is definitely very available. Very, very available.
So that covers us for red.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like every color there's like 2 insane removal spells.
Yeah, like we are going over the uncommons, and so they're played. It doesn't seem there's as many like bomby cards at uncommon, and it's mostly they just kind of loaded up on the really good or really unconditional or really efficient removal at uncommon, which I think it's good. That means like every deck will have some number of efficient removal, and that normally makes for pretty interesting games of Magic.
Agreed. The other thing I'm going to say is we've done, it's weird, like, Spencer gets busy right around the time of our set reviews, just like how his life's landed recently, so I had to do the last couple with you, I think minus Rivals. And normally we're just a lot of lame duck cards we're talking about, right? We're like, yep, like, it's fine. And then, like, sometimes I feel like we struggle, but all these cards but one I've been really excited to talk about. So it's like, I don't know, the set, maybe the power level's really high, maybe the Dominaria hype got me, I'm not sure, but...
I think the Domanaria hype is pretty real. Like, at least the first part of Domanaria, like, discovering Domanaria is going to be so fun. Because the cards are very unique. And that's pretty often hard to come by, right? Like, a lot of the people that play Magic have been playing for several years at least, if not decades or whatever, right? And so it's hard to come up with fresh designs that feel really different. And we've been trying to make comparisons, but a lot of times they're not super accurate, and I think that the set is going to play out in a really fun way. Like, it's just kind of like discovering how these cards will actually work. Sagas are really cool. Like, the focus on Legendary is definitely a unique take on it, so I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, I think Sagas are going to be so skill testing. Like, knowing when to play them,
they're going to be really interesting.
Yeah. Perfect information is always interesting. So, let's move on to green. And this is the card I picked that we added to the list. This is Fungal Plot. It's 1 in a green for an enchantment. You can pay 1 in a green, exile a creature card from your graveyard, create a 1/1 green sapling creature token. Then you can sacrifice 2 saplings, you gain 2 life and draw a card.
Okay. There was a card that was similar to this, where, I mean, these types of cards come up pretty often in Uncommon, actually, where it'll be pay some amount of mana, get a pretty low static creature at the cost of your graveyard, right? Yeah, Goblin Slide. There was a zombie one in the Innistrad block where you could pay 4 mana to get a zombie, like if you exile a creature, right?
Yeah, I don't remember its name, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And they normally play out bad if the format is fast, and in certain games, completely unbeatable broken. Right? Like, it's a pretty wide range of how good the card is. Just because if you have enough time and can have enough fuel to use it, then it's just an engine, right? Limited is very often about finding your win condition, and a card that is inevitability like this, where it's going to draw your whole deck, is really, really powerful.
Yeah, I agree. So the main reason I put this on here By the way, guys, this is the first one Danny hasn't shot down really fast, so I'm so happy. I got there. Fungal Plot. It's the one I believed in the whole time. Fungal Plot is that there are a lot of cards that care about Saprolings and sacrificing Saprolings. And lots of times there are cards like Goblin Slide, and they have other cards that aren't really good that matter with goblins. Right? There's like 7 mana guy that cares about goblins, or your goblins get +0/+2. Like, great, goblins are big butts. But this thing actually creates cards you care about. It uses them from the graveyard, and its second ability has a no mana cost. So just sacrificing 2 Saprolings and gaining 2 life and drawing a card. We talked about how maybe you're playing the Soothsayer and you're drawing cards and stuff like that and just blocking for time.
Yeah.
Just another version of that where it's like, all right, well, I'm just going to block your 2 big creatures, draw a card, gain 2 life, and then, all right, in turn, eat your thing. Or in turn, sail away.
So this does only do creature cards from your graveyard, right? So that is like a lot of qualifiers.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Right. So that means your deck has to have a lot of creatures. You have to trade with them or mill them somehow. And so like it definitely isn't a given that you'll be able to go off with this one. But if you can build a deck that does it, then it'll be sweet.
Yeah, like I think if you get, I'm talking about getting rares here, but like that, this is like a build around card, so I think it's okay for me to bring up like opening a rare. Like if you open Verdant Force, having this kind of card with your Verdant Force is going to be insane.
Like insane, yeah, completely ridiculous.
Yeah. So that was kind of thinking, and like the next 2 cards we're going to talk about matter Saprolings too, so we're going to come back to this one a little bit.
Yeah, I think the Saproling theme will be powerful.
Yep.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, I think it will. I think it'll work out pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. Especially in standard with our Avalanche token deck, Danny. Let's go! Industry Dryad. We have Spore Swarm, which is 300 green for an instant. Create 3 1/1 green sapling creature tokens.
Yeah, I think it'll be sweet. I mean, it being instant is cool. There's like a lot of instant speed removal, and so just being able to make 3 saplings instead of using your removal if they try to play around it is always great. And it seems like there's enough sapling / going wide payoff that you'll be able to use it, especially in a set that has so much spot removal. This is like the type of strategy that can be really effective, because their spot removal lines up really poorly against Spore Swarm. As long as you can spot removal all their creatures or somehow pump up your saplings or use them for value, like I think this will be an important card in a good archetype.
I agree, 110%. And I think, we talked about the cards matter saplings. I think we should talk about the next one. So we can talk about them all together. So this is Spore Crown Thallid. It is 1 green for a creature fungus. Each other creature you control that's a fungus or sapling gets +1/+1. It's a Lord. Just 2/2 Lord.
2 mana, 2/2 Lord, single colored, so you don't even have to be in like the green-black deck, technically. And so it fills your curve, right? You can play it on turn 2 if you need to, and if you get to use it as like a late game Lord effect, it's going to be really powerful. Like, really, really good.
Yeah, if you like, what's it called? Saproling, something? Spore Swarm from the I feel like end of turn Spore Swarm, and then play this thing, your team is much bigger, and now suddenly, blocks and racing and everything gets completely messed up.
For sure.
And then there are some weird, there's like a common that's like, -1/-1 a creature, make a spore, like, or sapling, sorry. There's some, a lot of sapling cards. I don't know, this card just seems good. They all seem good.
Yeah, they really are. There's the common sorcery that it's 2 mana, make 2, and then it's 6 mana, make 4. So like, that one's like really easy. There's lots of saplings for sure.
Yep, I think it's weird where it's like we just came from a tribal set where tribes don't always matter, but this is one of the few tribes I think like this in Wizard that's going to actually pay off in Limited. You're going to have to be the person who's drafting them, but I think you can get there pretty easily. So.
Yeah, I'm way more into this tribe than I was like into Wizards. Like I feel like Wizards might come together, but this one I think it's going to be a tough one to deal with when it works.
I feel like that's because you're a professional magician, and then you're not a professional sapling, so you're just like entranced.
I get it.
Yeah, not me.
It's like a new prospect. I like that.
The heart ones that they can't have, Danny. And let's move on to our flame tongue brethren, Untamed Kavu. 1 green for a Kavu 2/2 with kicker 3. If it was kicked, it gets 3+1/+1 counters on it and has Vigilance Trample. So 5 mana 5/5 Vigilance Trample in green, and 2 mana 2/2 Vigilance Trample.
Yeah, this card's so good. So 2 mana, like it's a curve filler. If you need your 2-drop, you have a reasonable 2-drop, 2 mana 2/2 Vigilance Trample. Like obviously those keywords don't matter too much on your 2/2 for 2. But really what you're paying for is the 5 mana 5/5 Vigilance Trample. That's a big body, like Trample's great on a 5/5. Like I think this card's just gonna be solid, and you're gonna want as many of these as you could possibly get in your deck because it makes your curve smooth, and it's also one of your better cards in the late game. It's just perfect.
A lot of these kicker cards remind me a lot of Cycling, where they'd be like really big cards that you just spend 2 mana and get rid of them if you don't like need them, or you need to do something with your mana. And I think this is the same way, where it's like, yep, this plays for 2, and then late game it became that 5/5. So
exactly. And the nice one about this is like a lot of them are, I have flooded horribly. Now I have like this kicker that will hopefully mitigate the fact that I got very unlucky and flooded. Whereas this one's not like that. This is just the top end of my curve and the bottom end of my curve, whichever one is more convenient based on my hand.
Yep.
So this is like the kicker card that I'm probably the most excited about. Like I think is the best. I'm not exactly sure how like the very large kicker is going to play out. It seems like it'll play out really well just because of how much removal there is. It looks like you'll be able to trade pretty effectively, go into the late game, and like use the cards that cost 10 and 8 and stuff. But this one is just all upside. It's sweet.
Yep, I agree. Well, Danny, that does it for our set review. We're not going to talk about the gold cards. We think a lot of them are like tribal build-arounds and like we're in that color, and we think that while we could talk about them, it'd be much better to spend our time talking about these cards, and we really like them. And we also, I think you can agree with me that all the Memorial Cycle of the lands are good. We should just, except for the red one.
Yeah, so anytime there's like lands that have abilities, they're good in limited. They're much better in limited than constructed, right? Because if I can replace this basic that I drew in the late game with the green land that finds a creature, like I am just at such a large advantage over my opponent that doesn't have that land and instead is playing a basic.
Yep, and if the format's slow, having a tap land coming in on a later turn will not matter. But you know what will matter? Drawing 2 cards.
Yeah, no, it's going to be sweet, for sure.
Yep. So that's going to do it for the set review. If you like the show and you felt like you want to give back, we do have a Patreon at LTOMTG on Patreon. There's some sweet rewards over there. I don't remember what our goal is right now on it, but it's awesome. If you feel like you want to give back to the show, more than welcome to go over there. And if you feel like you can't afford it right now, that's fine. The show will always be free. Just a way to say thank you. You can also say thank you by going to our sponsors, the Mana Base and Game Grid in Utah. What is the part of Utah it's called again? Spoilers, I don't live in Utah, for people who don't know. I live in Tennessee. I live across the state from these people. I
live more south, so I go to Game Grid in Lehigh. Which one are you talking?
That's what I was talking about.
But there's Game Grids all over. There's a bunch up in the Salt Lake area. I just happen to go to the one that's down in Lehigh. But they're all great. I am obviously biased towards the one that I go to, but yeah.
Yeah, because that one has Silver Pro and Team Lingering Souls member Danny Cathro.
Oh yeah.
I saw your feature match with your hoodie, and I was like, when did Danny get this hoodie?
Wait, that was funny. That feature, did you hear my story of how I forgot my Legacy deck so I couldn't play Legacy?
Yes, it was in your post interview.
Oh yeah, that was a funny one.
Yeah,
I liked that.
That's great. I mean, you really just threw away a Legacy win.
I, in theory, did throw away a top 8. I could have had a GP top 8 for sure.
I mean, you top 8 like every other Legacy event you played in, so I don't know why.
I was 50. It was a 50-50 shot.
Yeah.
I'm 1 for 2.
Either it happens or it doesn't, right? 50-50.
Correct. It's always 50-50.
Yep. Game of variance. No skill at all. Well, thank you everyone for watching this. We hope you have fun at your pre-release and your release weekend. And we cannot wait to see you next week where we're going to go over the comments. It's going to be a great time.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.